Sonic Mania is a game that needs no introduction. For those who don't know, this 8-year-old game is something I dedicated this entire channel to at one point. Playing Mania mode, Encore mode, mods, earning achievements, discussing, disgracing, and so much more. But remove the disgracing bit. I've been able to be seen by a larger audience, made many great friends, met so many talented modders, and I've had so many great opportunities thanks to this game. Easiest way to put it, Sonic Mania is one of the most important games I have ever played. This video has been a long time coming, and I hope I do it right. So let's go. Hey everybody, and welcome to a new Sonic Without Defeating a Badnik, the online challenge series that will not have a self-deprecating joke description for this video only. Today's a special one because it's a game that I've spent hundreds of hours on, and a game I loved so much I quadrupled down on it. Xbox, Steam, Nintendo Switch with the physical edition, and the Epic Game Store version. The base game was free and I had enough store credit for the DLC, so why the heck not? I haven't really played this version much, so let's try it out. And if we're going by version numbers, it is the most up-to-date version of Sonic Mania Plus, with the exception of Netflix, but I don't want to talk about that. Anyway, let's get into the rules. In the game, I cannot defeat a Badnik, which means attacking an enemy, destroying it to get points, and releasing the animal inside. If I do, then I'll be forced to restart the level. To make progress, bosses and mini-bosses will be excluded from the challenge. The challenge ends when Sonic is teleported thanks to the Phantom Ruby, or if I give up. No debug mode or cheats, so let's go. I have tried making this video 2 other times, so I have an idea of where I'll struggle, but it has been a while since I've last played the game, and I have my work cut out for me. I'm sure it was the case for the other 2 creators who have given it a shot as well. Shoutouts to Nathaniel Bandy and Spiky Spikes. With that said, allow me to be the 3rd person in history to ask this question. Can you beat Sonic Mania without defeating a Badnik? Let's find out. We start in a very familiar green hill zone. Dodging the motobugs, choppers, crab meats, and buzz bombers is pretty easy. Things take an interesting turn when I chose to take the lower path after the S-tube. From there I had a damage boost past a trio of choppers, and now I'm over a pit of spikes. For some reason I assumed there would be more buzz bombers, but that's in the original. Still, it's good to play it safe. The rest is similar to Sonic 1's Green Hill Zone Act 2, so I went into the big ring for our first Chaos Emerald. From here we take on the DD Wrecker to go to Act 2. I took the top path in Act 2 because it's going to lead me into another big ring as soon as this buzz bomber gets away. That's better. After stubbing my toe and getting beat up by the neutrons, I wasted some time by assuming I knew the location of another ring. At least I got a shield. At this point, running forward is all I can do. And then I screwed up by spin dashing. See, I'm trying to take this top path to get to another ring. It also has the fewest problematic Badniks, so it's a safe option. I made it back on the return trip to go face to face with the Motobug. After grabbing the second emerald, it's time to defeat the Death Egg robot. Unlike the Sonic 2 version, this one's a cakewalk, and Green Hill Zone comes to an end. Act 1 of Chemical Plant Zone begins, and I dodged Red Spring and the Grabber. I let the level take me forward until I get to the shifting blocks. Before getting out of the water, I need Emerald number 3. There isn't much else until the Amoeba Droid to finish the act. Act 2, on the other hand, is a lot of fun with this bouncy goop, or whatever the heck it's called. After dodging the Caterpillar Jr., I hopped into the left side of the clear tube to take off. There isn't much going on except for being picked up by a grabber. Since they explode after grabbing Sonic, I'm not going to count this. And there's also no points. Or an animal. Oh. After latching onto the wall, I made a detour to get the next Chaos Emerald. At one point I wasn't paying attention, so now I have to wait because I grabbed an invincibility box. I jumped over one last Caterpillar Jr. to avoid the grabbers, and I skipped out on the next emerald for reasons I'll get into later. But now, I get to play Puyo Puyo. I'm so glad this game doesn't have the second level of the Genesis version, or I would be in trouble. But to explain Act 2, there's a lot of empty space and a lot of room to work with, so we're done here. Let's move on. Studiopolis Zone starts with a mic drop. Wait, that's the real name of it? Okay, that's pretty cool. When there's one, they're easy to avoid. Same goes for the Shutterbugs and the Tubonaut. From there, the level just goes on until I get into the popcorn machine, followed by the Hornet. It's high class. I got nervous with that because the Shutterbug was right there and I didn't want to land on top of it, but it was safe. One Hornet with the janky camera movement later, and I'm fighting the Heavy Gunner to finish Act 1. That was pretty easy. I start bouncing on orbs to start Act 2. But the Tubonaut stands in the way, and unfortunately damage boosting is going to be the way to go here. From there I tried taking the top route, but I fell down. There was a point after the mic drops where I'm supposed to break the lid to move forward, but these Shutterbugs are there, and that is not going to end well. So we gotta go back. The trick is to get onto the other platform so I can switch which layer I'm on, and from there, the level's pretty much over. I'm only dealing with mic drops at this point, and they're not low enough to force me to deal with them. So, after one fight with the Weathermobile, Studiopolis has come to an end. What is that buzzing sound? Flying battery would start as a nightmare, but like the original, timing is everything. The techno squeaks are the only threat because of their speed, but they're not overly crowded. At this point, I'm playing the level normally. Getting the lightning shield would have been important for the capsule near the exit, but I had to jump on the edge of it instead because I lost it. After a malfunctioning button, I lowered all the way down. There's a close call on the way to the small missiles, but we're at the big squeeze. Yes, I know there's Badniks, but it is a boss fight, so they don't really apply to the rules. Without the lightning shield, this is actually required to reach the boss because he's a little too high up. And as the boss fight continues, the room gets smaller and smaller. Trust me, I would have loved to have figured out how to do this without defeating a Badnik. Not so much because it's part of the rules and every single thing must be done that way. This is a boss fight, so it would have just been nice to show off what I could do. Act 2 starts with a little anxiety because these techno squeaks are getting really close. My least favorite being the one near the lid of this tube. I went for the top route, by the way. Bringing the lightning shield was great because I could double jump over these cluckers. If I didn't keep it, I would have had to go to the bottom route. Another benefit is deflecting their egg bullets, so I don't have to worry about damage or anything. That is until I didn't commit when I was running upside down. A lot of the level is just avoiding the many cluckers and their eggs. Thank goodness for the bubble shield. After a lot of nothing happening, I lose my shield at this clucker, but after that the level is over. Really quick, if you struggle against the Spider-Mobile, just jump at him before he reaches the absolute top where he can start his attack, and then send him into the spikes when you're able to. It works every time. He won't do a thing. Press Garden starts with a scare as I almost jump into a dragonfly. Thankfully the shield's there because I needed to damage boost through the juggle saw. The splats near the spawner was a problem because I needed to break the glass button. Now I have to start over. I dropped down on the second attempt and the splat spawner that I came across is in a more open area, so it's a little safer. With the lightning shield, the splats in the next area are much easier to get around. From there, I made the climb up and it's business as usual. Except for a damage boost. And there isn't much else to say. I had a very easy time leading up to the Shiver Saw, and Act 1 is over. Act 2 begins with taking the top route, and it worked out until I was frozen and went down the slope. Things go bad when I drop down and end up in a dead end past this point with the big ring. See, there's a big ring there, which is why I'm using it as a point of reference. There's also a checkpoint, but still, it makes the most sense to me. To get through the ice, I'll need to be frozen and slide through it, which is not a big deal, but then when you realize the Woodrow is in the way, I'm gonna have to find another path. I got back to the checkpoint and I could use the slope to fling myself onto another path, but on my first try I screwed it up. On the third attempt, I went to the absolute top of the level to grab a flame shield. This shield makes for a great icebreaker and it's gonna help me out a lot. I didn't fall off after the big ring checkpoint this time, and I kept running forward until I lost the flame shield. A little bit of climbing later and I'm at the heavy shinobi to wrap up Press Garden. Before I get into this zone, I just want to say how frustrating video errors can be in this series. If there's some kind of tiny issue like this large empty space in the recording for the first two zones, that's not a big problem, I can fix that in editing. The issue with this one is going to need a bit of an explanation. When I record retro games or I record something like Sonic Mania, I try to use an integer scale of their resolution. And if you know a thing or two about retro games or retro-inspired games, they don't fit into the 1080p display. This is what you think I would be recording at, but it actually looks like this. And to achieve a recording without any blank spaces, I have to adjust OBS's canvas size, which isn't bad until it starts changing the output resolution and they no longer match, which means my footage is blurry, and it's going to be like that for a little bit. I know what some of you might be asking, well, why don't you just go and record it again? In a challenge video? You're going to see why I won't do it. But first, start a Speedway. Act 1 starts with going up these pulleys, but first I wait for the Hotaru to go away. There are going to be areas where I'm stuck in a ball, so I'm going to need to get out of that as fast as I can. Before I continue, I want to go over this capsule thing I hit. They give no points, and they're not classified as enemies, so we could just keep going. Turns out the path I took next sent me into a big ring that I've never seen before, but I'm going to play it safe and skip it this time. A bit further down, and now I have a Hotaru on my trail. I was only able to get away from it by getting into these rolling areas as it started using its attack. After luring the Dango to get out of the way and letting the Kanabun pass, it's time for the Hotaru High Watt. This was one of the bosses that people were telling me about, and if it wasn't for the fact that I've already explained things in Flying Battery, I was still going to say it's part of the boss fight. But there is a way to get past it without fighting the Hotaru. You just have to let them do their attacks and go away. Eventually, the Hotaru High Watt's going to spawn, and that's when you can actually fight. With that taken care of, it's time to go into the future and into the next act. I'm taking what was the optimal under 1 minute route for Act 2, which requires laying low for the most part. It's pretty empty until I get to the point with the first set of loops. Before the second set, there's a close call with the Dango, but I had just enough room to avoid it with my jump. I stopped at the end to hit the spring to avoid going into a route that'll take longer, and it's going to have more enemies, so saved myself on that one. If you want a real close call, there are these red springs that sent me into a Kanabun. If it had spawned sooner, I would have had to restart the level, or find another path. And it's pretty much over at this point, but now it's time for Metal Sonic. And obviously, I've made this point twice already, but for the sake of repetition, it's a boss fight. But that's not the thing I wanted to make a point about. See, in the original release of Sonic Mania, there was a cool glitch where you could skip over the entire first phase of the fight, meaning that you can go into the second phase, and even then the second phase was very different. Alright, hold on. So I was looking for footage of this skip so I can say how impossible it is, but there is a new method to pull this off. Shout out to Argic's tutorial, by the way. If you have Supersonic, you can do a one-tap spin dash to get stuck in the ceiling and mash the jump button to get through to get past that first phase. It's something I could have tried, but at this point I only had 5 emeralds and I was under the assumption I was going to need to get into a special stage for another reason. I'll get into that later. I'm going to stick to my point from before. It's a mini boss, but just so you know, if you have Supersonic by this point, it is possible. Hey, when you fight the first phase, you have to hit the Silver Sonics to do damage. When they stand, they free an animal and this weird electric thing that can rise up to hit Metal Sonic. When you hit Silver Sonic when he's in a ball, what happens to the animal? Nothing spawns and the little robot disintegrates to... Oh my god. That is dark. Can you beat the game without defeating a Badnik? Never mind that, I think Sonic has committed an actual crime. While I think about the implications of this fight, Phase 2 goes off without a hitch and Stardust Speedway is over. I actually thought the capybaras were going to be a problem since they blend in a bit better with the capsules and they're the smallest enemies in the zone, but nope, they were not an issue at all and I had to constantly check the score as I was playing. Now, let's get into the argument starter. Aquatic Acceleration Zone begins with using the hook on the far right to go up and let the level take me through. The first enemy to give me a problem is the Turbo Spiker. With the Retro Engine, I have to wait a while for them to go off screen and despawn. After this is a scary situation with a Mega Chopper, but moving left and right repeatedly takes care of that. The next scary bit is the boat that has a Buggernut chasing me. Going in the water helps a little bit, but I messed up trying to avoid another Turbo Spiker. There was a ledge that turned it around and I did not anticipate that. I made the same mistake going back, but this is how I found out the Buggernuts do not follow you through the loops. On the third attempt, I brought a bubble shield with me, and I moved on until I got into the next boat with a Buggernut. Getting out of this was dumb because I lost my bubble shield, dove in the water to get another, only to find that it had a yellow spring that sent me right back into the Buggernut. And the only thing that really saved me was the edge of the boat. After one more boat and Turbo Spiker, the level's pretty much over, and I fight the egg dive. That's just Eggman in a scuba suit getting shredded by an impeller. Okay, real talk, are the devs okay? Like, Taxman, Stealth, everybody who worked on this, are you guys okay? This game's getting a little more sinister the more I think about it. Oh, and before we get into the next act, I just found out the name of the zone is because it's a town with water, which is pretty mind-blowing. Moist Municipality Zone Act 2 starts with climbing up the spinning platform to the top path. I made sure to stay on that top path as long as possible, and it worked out, except for this damage boost. But I took damage first. That sprite don't lie. And it's at this point where the Turbo Spiker starts moving backwards after hitting part of the loop. If you've played Mania, you'll know the rest leading up to the next Turbo Spiker is free, so go as fast as possible because all of the Badniks stay out of the way. The next section would have been the same, but I messed up and dropped on a point Dexter. The return trip goes without any issue. From here I dodge some Jaws, a Turbo Spiker, finally acknowledging the moonwalk, and fight the Laundromobile to get out of this one. I'll be honest with you all, Mirage Saloon Act 1 is probably one of the hardest levels in the Sonic Without Defeating a Badnik Challenge series. These Voltrons will follow you for a large portion of the level. As you go along, they'll introduce Armadilloids. If you can't bunch the Voltrons together, you're not going to make it. If you're playing Sonic Mania on the Epic Game Store, dying will kill the music and give you the wrong time of day. I could have sworn this was patched out. After many attempts, I made it through, but I have learned from the first time I made it through the auto-scroller section. Those Voltrons are still there, and there's a very good chance that they'll be defeated if I get launched out of this gun. This is where the big ring comes into play. Yes, I am getting my 6th Chaos Emerald, but I'm also despawning the Voltrons. And the level is pretty much over. After the auto-scroller, I fight the Uber Caterkiller, and we can move on to Act 2. Hey, it's me from a future recording again. After skipping the Metal Sonic encounter, I just had to see this for myself. Can I do this while still having all of my emeralds? This means I played this level again with all the emeralds, and yeah, it does work. Even better if you can despawn some of these enemies because they are super annoying and they will never stay off of you. But I still went for the big ring to get the required number of rings so I can go through the Blue Spheres level, or Pinball, depending on whatever you have unlocked. This will also despawn the Voltrons, and I can beat the Uber Caterkiller as Supersonic. Does that invalidate everything I played between Stardust Speedway and here? No, I was going to play the levels as safe as I possibly can, so I was never going to utilize Supersonic outside of bosses and mini-bosses. But now that I have that out of the way, and I've played this level with the challenge twice, I never need to return to this act ever again. For the first time, I was relieved, and I was really happy about that. But now I'm just pretty damn annoyed. I am satisfied with what I found out, so let's keep going. Act 2 starts with a slow jog past the Voltron, and I avoid using the flipper to get through. But it doesn't get me too far as I'm forced to use another one to pop the glass and piñatas. The Roller Mark II caused me to panic a bit, and I knocked out a Bumpalo by accident. Hang on, let me clear that up a bit. Back at the same spot, I pushed the roller away and I took the path on the right. From there, I'm sent to the battle against the Heavy Magician to finish Mirage Saloon. That one's actually not that tough when you get through the auto-scroller. Oil Ocean Act 1 is much simpler than it leads on. For one, the Octus, or Octi, can be cleared with a jump. Once I saw the big ring, I had to go and get the final Chaos Emerald. Since Supersonic is a threat to the challenge, I'm only going to reserve him for mini-bosses and bosses. I was convinced that the Flame Shield would mess me up, so for whatever reason I had the Octus take care of it. I kept going until I made it to another one in a tiny space, and sadly I needed to damage boost to get through it. After that it's pretty easy since there's not many enemies throughout the level. But that didn't stop me from hitting something near this platform that shot up. I just had to wait for a moment, and it would have been done. Which is what I did on the next attempt. I defeated the meter droid to finish Act 1. One thing to mention, since I went through a big ring in the previous attempt, when I come back to it, it's not going to be there. That's just how Mania works. So, I made a decision to take the exact same route to make it fair. Let's move on. Act 2 begins with me getting the fire shield, and it's about as standard as a route as I was able to play. Take the first balloon launcher, avoid suffocation, slide between the Octus and the Soul, and at the checkpoint where I could drop into a submarine and a big ring, I opted for the path on the bottom right instead. Though there was a mistake that led to me dropping and damage boosting past 3 Octi. Look, I know it's called Octus, but I went with Octi because octopi is plural for octopus. By the way, staying on the ledge of a small platform does work, so Act 1 could have been done a lot easier. I made my way through the final submarines and defeated the Mega Octus after a death. Let's get out of Oil Ocean. Crashing and damage boosting past the Rexon is how I start Lava Reef Zone Act 1. The fireworm that follows gives me more than enough room to get through, and you might have caught something that exploded off screen. That was an Awamadoki. In Sonic 3 Knuckles, these guys hide under a rock and will detonate after a few seconds. They used to have this 100-point graphic, and that was considered a glitch. All the posts that I found looked into it, and they all claimed it was a glitch as well. But this one from Sonic Retro makes a comparison that I never considered. Remember the Asterons from Sonic 2's Metropolis Zone? Those were indestructible enemies that explode and do not award the player points. Even better is that they don't release an animal upon exploding. So because of this technicality, the run is still alive. The tunnel bot breaks through the ground and I'm able to go over the Rexons in the lava pit. At the Spiked Crusher, I went and grabbed the lightning shield and got crushed. Thanks, Mania. From here, I let the level take me as I make one little skip thanks to the shield. Too bad I had a damage boost through the double Rexon, because it would have been great to have Supersonic. It's also a good thing that the game is not exactly like Sonic 3 and Knuckles with the placement of Toximisters, otherwise this would have been a problem. After the checkpoint is the fight against the tunnel bot to finish Act 1. Act 2 starts like all other playthroughs, but with the fork in the road, I went for the top path. It's not too bad. The fireworm goes up a bit when it turns around, making that easy to get through, but I was sniped by an Awamadoki and crushed. Alright, cool. On the way back, I grabbed the bubble shield because I know I'm gonna need it, and now I'm at one hell of a dead end. The 2 Toximisters. It doesn't have the same hitbox as Sonic 3 and Knuckles, or I would just spin dash underneath it. I might need to go to the bottom route on this one. After squeezing past the fireworms and nearly dying in the lava, I chose to avoid the Toximister to go up and be tricked by 2 platforms. Hey, look, I don't want to talk about it. There's a new segment where I need to hit a spring, jump to the area above me, but I was just struggling for the reason of trying to play things safe. And after all that effort, I was in a small hallway with a Toximister. I couldn't get past it in time. I said screw it, walked as fast as I could into the Toximister, missing the mist somehow, and was able to successfully damage boost with a handful of rings left over. Things were going pretty well and aw crap, the Rexon. When I came back, I was not aware with how much I would need to damage boost to get over the lava pit. It led to a big ring and a surprise spike, which I really didn't appreciate. From here, the level is over with a small climb, followed by a fight against the Heavy Rider and his Motobug Jimmy. Lava Reef Zone is done. Act 1 of Metallic Madness is pretty safe, all things considered. Jump over the Mechaboo, grab the shield, and stick to the high route. At this point, my worst enemy is going to be my skill, which isn't an issue here. In the background, these Pobies are going to be a little annoying, but let their maces swing away and you're good. At least that's how it worked for me. The Scarabs are going to be a little scarier since they're in these cramped spaces, but a good jump will take care of them. Then there's one with the ring box. and I didn't anticipate this. I actually thought I screwed up and I was going to need another path, but a good jump clears it and earns me 10 rings in the process. After that, I go in and out of the background twice, fight the Egg Pistons Mark II as Supersonic to finish Act 1. The second act had me using the same strategy, go up, which actually didn't work as well as it should. Using the slope allowed me to bypass the POB completely, and I don't think I came across a single enemy in the first mini section. Going into the second one was also easy because the enemies were behind a wall, meaning that I had zero contact with them. I only saw one Mechaboo in the top path, and the level's pretty much over with that. One fight with a Gotcha Pandora later, and we're on our way to the final zone. The beginning of Titanic Monarch didn't go as smooth as I would have liked, but that's because I was trying to be careful. The Turbo Turtles are going to be an issue with their fans, but the one that had me the most worried were the sentry bugs. They have attacks that'll track you, and if you wait too long, you're going to take damage. It's smooth sailing for a bit at the shield, and I go up to damage boost past the ball hog. At the dual ball hog, I messed up by walking backwards a little bit and jumping. I just needed to stop and reposition myself a bit to get through, which is what I did on the next attempt. When I grabbed the next shield, I was trying to avoid making the sentry bug aggressive, so it looks awkward as hell. I wanted to switch up my shield, so I went left of this loop, grabbed the shield and the big ring, and went to the right after that. The shield is going to protect me from the electricity, which is something I don't get to demonstrate thanks to the Turbo Turtle. I would have been done here, but a rookie mistake took out a Flasher Mark II in the process. I made it back to fight the Crimson Eye as Supersonic to finish Act 1. We are almost there. Titanic Monarch Act 2. The beginning is going to have a sentry bug to keep me from getting on the gear easily. I messed up a few times because I wanted to grab the shield as well, so that was my fault. From the first warp, I take the top left corner, which was a bad idea. The ball hogs are okay at the start, and I had to damage boost past the flashers to get through. After the sentry bug is where I come across my issue. This ball hog is too high up to jump over, and there isn't a high enough platform to make the jump possible, so I knocked it out. I'll get back to this one in a bit. On another attempt, I went to the route on the top right. This one is free as I only had to use the electric orbs to get up, and there's only one ball hog in the way. Next was the route on the bottom right. My biggest threat was the sentry bugs, but the level is designed in a way where you're moving faster than the attacks will be able to lock onto you. So that wasn't too hard. The bottom left is next, and it's another free area. The sentry bugs can't catch me, and the ball hogs are in very open spots. This time, I can take the alternate exit and grab a lightning shield with it. Obviously, I messed up again at the ball hog at the top left route. Man, if I paid for this game, I'd be pretty annoyed right now. I'm just kidding, you can jump out of this. It takes 2 more failed attempts to find out that damage boosting off the little bombs would work. That was the only real obstacle in this act, which means I can get to the end. Now we're choosing the Phantom Egg battle with Supersonic to go to the Phantom King and Kleptomobile battle to finish the game. So, can you beat Sonic Mania without defeating a Badnik? The answer is yes. Man, that was a wild ride. From user error to OBS being OBS, to Mirage Saloon Act 1, the Awamadokis, and that one ball hog. I think I did a great job this time around. Going for the Metal Sonic skip was a lot easier than I expected. I had my fair share of mistakes, but it didn't take long to get back to Metal Sonic and I could go as fast as I wanted to, because Stardust Speedway Act 2 was actually much easier than I expected it. I was just tiptoeing around for no reason. Mirage Saloon Act 1 sucks. I really hate the Sky Chase segment. I hate it, and I never have to play it in this challenge ever again. So, I win. I explained this when I was playing the Sonic Mania randomizer recently, but it's a little tough to approach this game and not play the way that I was used to. That muscle memory kicks in, and that's when the mistakes were being made. As experienced as I am with this game, and for the many hours that I've invested in it, I clearly had a lot more to learn. I don't have any more I can say except this game's awesome. It's still one amazing video game, and as I said at the start of the video, one of the most important video games I have ever played. One day I'd like to take a critical look at the game in the form of a review, but that's a video for another time, and I think that'll just about do it. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this special edition of Sonic Without Defeating a Badnik. What are your thoughts on Sonic Mania? Let me know in the comment section down below, or comment anything really. If you're new, feel free to subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon, and if you enjoyed the video, give it a like. At this time, I want to thank the channel supporters who are here on YouTube and Patreon. The Chaos tier members have their names scrolling on screen, and the Super tier members have paid for a verbal shoutout. Those being Dalton Furry and Ultima Jack. Thank you for your extra support. It's greatly appreciated. You are all awesome. And if you want to support the channel with a monthly contribution, you can find out how to do so with the join button below this video, or you can go to patreon.com/GottaBeFrank. The lowest tier is $1, and you get some extra perks like exclusive videos. I don't have a whole lot else to shill except for my social medias, which are in the description down below, but also come by the streams. youtube.com/GottaBeFrank. I mean, hell, you're here right now. And it's also on my Twitch page, twitch.tv/GottaBeFrank. Just remove the E because somebody else took that username. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful and safe day, and I'll catch you in the next one. But until then, take care.